There he is. You hear the protesters chanting, crime family, and that is basically what these people are, a crime family, a very dumb crime family, the Gambozos, if you will. And Don Jr., he's so embarrassing. He's on the stand. He's testifying in this 250.
It started like one more television hit, the kind of interview meant to smooth things over, clean up headlines, and remind the audience that Donald Trump Jr. could still play the role of polished defender when the cameras were on. He smiled, nodded, talked about civility, blamed the media for division, and tried to sound like the grown-up in the room. But the problem with that strategy is simple. It only works if nobody remembers the footage, and Jimmy Kimmel remembered all of it. He remembered the swagger, the excuses, the recycled outrage, the family loyalty dressed up as principle. Most of all, he remembered that Don Jr. always speaks like a man who wants credit for surviving storms he didn't create while living comfortably under the same roof that caused them. Where are you watching from? That night, Kimmel didn't start with cheap jokes. Instead, he slowed the whole story down and reminded viewers that Don Jr. wasn't some outsider unfairly mocked by elite television.
Jr., he's so embarrassing. He's on the stand. He's testifying in this $250 million fraud trial, and he has to compliment. He said his father is an artist with real estate. Yeah, he's an artist. He's Vincent Van going to jail with real estate.
He was a middle-aged heir who had spent years moving from controversy to controversy, always loud, always indignant, always defending power as if defending it were a personal achievement. Kimmel's point was brutal because it was simple. Here was a man born into fame, supported by family wealth, lifted by family name, and still talking like he had climbed the mountain alone. The audience laughed, but not just because it was funny. They laughed because they recognized the pattern immediately. Then Kimmel turned to the part that really landed. He highlighted Don Jr.'s style of outrage, the way he could speak about civility in one moment and amplify chaos the next. He framed him not as a serious political thinker, but as a full-time family spokesman with a permanent grievance and a rotating script. Once the crowd saw him that way, every polished sentence Don Jr. had delivered in interviews began to sound thinner. Kimmel didn't shout. He simply laid out the contradiction. A man demanding fairness while thriving on provocation.
He said his father is an artist with real estate. Yeah, he's an artist. He's Vincent Van going to jail with real estate. Posted that his dad is the father of hotel gyms. He said maybe someone put a gym in a building somewhere, but no one did it at the scale of my father. He's saying that his
political demanding respect while mocking others, demanding credibility while borrowing his entire identity from his father's surname. The room came alive when Kimmel dropped the line that made everything click. Don Jr. talks like a self-made patriot but lives like a trust fund complaint in a blazer. The audience reacted instantly because older viewers especially understand the difference between inheritance and sacrifice, between building something and being handed the keys while claiming the engine as your own invention. Kimmel leaned into that difference and exposed it in clear language. No complicated theory, no over-explaining, just a sharp contrast everyone could understand.
I'm a business guy who had his elbows soldered together, and now I move my arms like a Muppet all the time. And with all the complaining the Trumps do about this trial playing out in the media, you could barely even turn the channel.
And that is why the reaction from Donald Trump was so predictable. When Kimmel targets Don Jr., he isn't only criticizing the son, he's challenging the mythology surrounding the entire family. The Trump brand can handle loud criticism as long as it stays chaotic and emotional, but what it dislikes most is clarity. Kimmel stripped away the noise and showed the audience the wiring underneath. He didn't just roast Don Jr., he reduced the performance to a profile: outrage without risk, confidence without consequence, rebellion funded by inheritance. Once that image lands, it becomes difficult to shake. The insults and complaints that followed only reinforced the point. If Don Jr. were truly above it, why react with so much anger? That's the trap of comedy when it edges too close to truth. The louder the denial, the more people return to the original joke to see what caused the reaction. What viewers remembered wasn't just the mockery, it was the contrast. One side had the family name, wealth, and media machinery. The other had timing, clarity, and the willingness to say what many were already thinking. Don Jr. wasn't undone by a single punchline. He was exposed by a pattern, and once the audience recognizes that pattern, it becomes much harder for the next polished interview or the next angry defense to put the mask back on.